Pitt basketball really needed this one, right? Your 3-point favorite at home. This UNC team is a little bit banged up, and you're trailing at the half. You're down 44-42 at the half. Looked a little dicey, and they come back. They storm back, win the game 73-65. Kind of get back on track there this season. So we'll sort of start with the winners. That's the way it should be, right, Rob? You start with the winners before, even if the story's a little juicier with the loser, because it is. Pitt got the win. How big was this tonight for Jeff Capel and his bunch to get this done at home?
Well, I mean, they badly needed this win, and the sad part is that I think we're kind of at a point in time where it's hard to know whether or not beating North Carolina is a good win. But if you look at the rest of Pitt's schedule, right, you get North Carolina on the road February 8th. Who knows if that's actually going to be a good one. You play at Wake Forest on February 1st, which will probably be a better win than any of the metrics are going to tell you. You got to play at SMU. You got to play at Louisville, right? Like, you got a lot of tough road tests here coming up, and you just dropped 4 in a row before coming back and bouncing back against Syracuse. But you dropped 4 in a row, and your best wins right now are West Virginia, right? In your own building. Your best wins are at Ohio State, and it's not like either of those two teams have been absolutely lighting it up recently. So, yes, I think that they absolutely had to have this win, because you're at a spot right now where if you're Pitt, it's not like losing to North Carolina is necessarily a bad loss. But when you're playing in the ACC right now, there are a lot of spots where you do have holes that you can step in and potholes that you can step in. And frankly, I just don't think that we are at a point right now with this Pitt team and this Pitt program where you can take a bad loss and be able to survive it, right? Like I'm our most recent bracket. Hold on, let me just bring it up right here. Our most recent bracket had Pitt as an 11 seed, right? And it's not like they're at a point where they have to win out to be able to get in, because they got to be able to build up their resume, Kenny. But like, you can't drop any of these games to other teams in the ACC. It's a weird spot to be in when we're talking about teams in the ACC, but that's kind of where they are right now. Like, if you're Pitt, you can't afford to lose at home to North Carolina. What planet am I living on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I just when I'm looking at the game, you look at both of these teams and you're like, if either of them wins, it's not beating each other is not any like huge deal. But, this game was definitely bigger for Pitt than it was for North Carolina. Pitt already has Duke behind them. They don't have to play them again. You're going Wake Forest, Virginia, UNC, SMU, Miami. Like, it's not like they're easy games. But then you look at North Carolina's schedule, they got to go Duke, Pitt, Clemson. Like that, you're gonna have to beat this team at your place that you just lost to. So it's like they have a tough few games coming up, and Pittsburgh definitely has, I would say, probably the hardest part of their schedule maybe behind them. So it's like this was definitely a big win, especially being on the bubble. And hopefully you can go and you can run 4 or 5 off in a row here. And but yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely a bigger win for Pitt than it would have been for North Carolina.
Yeah, and what's the most impressive part about it, John? They did it on a night where, we've talked about how good Jalen Lowe is and how good Ishmael Leggett is and how good Damian Dunn is. And Dunn hit a big shot there. But North Carolina was down by 10 was up by 10 at one point late in the first half. And Pitt goes on an 8-0 run. They give up 21 points to the Tar Heels in the second half. And like, look, you won that game with your defense. If you're Pitt, you're not known for your defense. But what would North Carolina would strictly ISO ball for like the last 15 minutes. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I know you didn't have Jalen Washington, but I don't think it matters, because like, is Jalen Washington really that much of something to write home about?
It's Pitt, man. It's Pitt. You know what I'm saying? Come on, bro. Yeah. This is North Carolina basketball. You almost got me out here getting out of my religion.
Hey, I got a real question for you. Honest question for you. Okay. If we dusted off Kenny Freeze's old sneakers, right, and he got this new 5th year of eligibility that we have coming back, and we put him out there at the 5, just to say, Kenny, go out there, be 7 foot, 275, or what'd you say? Not the most fleet of foot. I think you might be able to go out there and get like 10, 11 rebounds, just take up some space in the paint. I feel like that's what Carolina needs. Let's get Kenny Freeze out there and maybe we'll solve all these problems with Carolina. It's just I can't believe we're in this spot right now with the Tar Heels again for the second time in 3 years. What is happening?
Man, it seem like that's the case with a lot of teams though. The big guy's just not there. And then the teams that have them are they generally do well. And obviously it's not like there's an abundance of 7-footers running around, but like the teams that have them do well, and the teams that go to like the small ball, you're starting to see that big guy come back. And this game, it's a weird game because you look at the rebounds. North Carolina crushed them on the boards. The game was basically won by Pittsburgh at the free throw line. They made 16 free throws. North Carolina made 6. They only got to the line 9 times. And it's just I don't know what to say about North Carolina. When they shoot the ball well, they can beat somebody. But if they don't shoot the ball well, if they shoot 7 for 24, they're going to have a tough time beating anybody.
Yep.
Yeah, and listen, I'm in Memphis, so I know what it means and how difficult it is to have these kinds of conversations, when it's one of your own, right? And that's usually what it is at North Carolina. So, I recognize that, but damn, dude, this brand is just taking hit after hit after hit every week. Like, they were 3-point underdogs to Pitt. And I understand that it's on the road. I get like the idea that it has kind of devolved into this where they're just an average team. Like, they have some young talent, right? And RJ Davis has been All-American, but like they didn't do enough in the portal, clearly. That, like we've talked about, they didn't address big man. And Hubert Davis obviously owns that unique credit of taking a preseason #1 team to not making the tournament. So I don't know, man. I wonder, Rob, and I know it's early and I'm not trying to go there, but like, what kind of stomach does North Carolina have here? Because it just feels like that brand is suffering big time right now.
Yeah, and look, I'll say this, right? You can criticize him for what's happened this season, and I think that he 100% deserves criticism for failing to address it's not like there's a general manager here that if you're like it is in the NBA where our coach can kind of say, right, I wasn't given the players that I needed, right? Like Hubert Davis is the general manager. Like the coaching staff is the ones that kind of determine who they go out and get. And North Carolina did not get the piece that they needed in the middle. I think that they kind of whiffed on Cade Tyson, who was a guy that took out of the portal pretty early to try to fill that Harrison Ingram kind of big body role in the wing. And you've built a roster where you have a bunch of guys that are kind of at their best with the ball in their hands and nobody that can really get them to a point where set them up to be able to make a shot. So like it's a flawed roster. I don't want to defend Hubert for the flawed roster. And the same thing you said, like he put together a great roster in 2023 and that thing imploded because the chemistry wasn't there. And all of that stuff has deserved criticism. But I also don't think that you can overlook the fact that he took a team that nobody had as a preseason top 20 team except for me in 2024 to a #1 seed. And I don't think you can overlook the fact that he took an 8 seed and made a run to the Final Four. Like, if I am North Carolina, I understand the concerns about him and the questions about him, but he's also done some really, really impressive stuff, And I'll say this, John. If every other year Hubert does something really, really awesome, I think you got to give him at least one more year because he's guaranteed in year 5 to be able to find a way to make this team be they're either going to be a 1 seed or playing in the Final Four. That's just the way that this thing is going, right?
That's right.
Got to play
That's
the
right.
odds.
Flip-flopping.